Welcome to another edition of Interruptions. I'm your host, Otis Smith. Today, I have a treat for you all. You know my guest. You've seen him in different things, mainly Happy Days. You've seen him on ED TV. You've seen him on Chips. You've seen him on Bold and the Beautiful. I'm talking no other than Don Most, aka Ralph Mouth. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Otis. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I thank you for coming on the show. I don't take it lightly that you're blessing us with your presence.
Well, thank you.
So I thank you for coming on.
Yeah, my
Uh,
pleasure.
my first question for you, because your profession, is just different than others, and so I want to start from the beginning. I'm always interested in how did you become an actor? How did you
Yeah,
get into acting?
sure. Um, it started for me when I was about 9 years old. I saw a movie
Okay.
on TV. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and they had in New York at the time a station. Uh, well, on Channel 9, they had something called $1 Million Movie,
Okay.
and they would pick a movie and they'd show it the entire week, twice a night, and four times on Saturday and four times on Sunday. So you'd have plenty of chances to watch it. So I watched the movie. A friend of mine in school, I remember the next morning, I think I was in like fifth grade or something, and he
Okay.
said, "Oh, did you see this movie? It was called The Jolson Story." I said, "No, no." He said, "It's about Al Jolson." And Al Jolson was considered the greatest entertainer of his time. And this was back in the early, the 19 teens, 1920s,
Okay. Okay.
1930s. And he was on Broadway, and then he even made the very first talking movie. He starred in the very first talking
Hmm.
movie called The Jazz Singer, the original Jazz Singer,
Okay.
1927. So this was a movie about him, about his life, about his career. And it took me, it just, even at 9 years old, it had a very powerful effect on me. I loved the story, but I also loved who Jolson was. Even though there was an actor named Larry Parks playing Jolson, he captured Jolson, and it was Jolson's voice whenever the singing took place.
Okay.
And I was taken by, just like most of the world, or at least the U.S., was taken by Jolson back in that time. And I went out and got his records, and I watched that movie. I think every night that week. I think I saw it like 10, 12 times that
Oh
week.
wow.
And and I became a fan, and started wanting to, I was singing along to his songs. I got his records, and I really wanted to. So originally it was more singing than the acting. But then by the time I was 13, I wound up going to a school in Manhattan for acting, singing, dancing. And
Okay.
so that's how it started for me. And then by the time I was about 16, I switched to a more serious acting class and was able to get a manager, and then started going out on auditions and started booking some things in New York, a lot of commercials, some big national commercials, and a few TV appearances. And that's how it all started. And then it led to me going to California several years later when I was
Okay.
in my after my junior year in college, and I was doing a lot of theater in college too. But I went out to California for the summer, and then I wound up getting some parts pretty quickly. Auditioned and landed some guest starring roles on TV shows, and so I decided to stay in California for a little bit longer, and then um, ultimately uh, being out there longer, I got another part in something else, and then led to the audition for Happy Days. So that's kind of a thumbnail, a Reader's Digest version of the the
was
the,
that
the origin.
was the school you went to? Was that a um, performing art school? Was that kind of performing art?
No, no, actually, no. What happened was, I was getting so focused in high school on the acting and going, like I said, into New York for classes and auditions. But my parents, didn't feel comfortable with me, after high school, just pursuing acting and not
Okay.
having something a little more solid in case, they knew the unpredictability and the sort of volatile nature of show business. So so college was a backup plan. So it didn't make sense to go to college for the acting, because then it's still putting all the eggs in that same
Sure.
basket.
Sure.
So I actually entered Lehigh University in Pennsylvania as an engineering major.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I was really, my uncles were engineers. My grandfather was an engineer, and I was good in math and science, so that was the backup plan. But after one semester, I realized, my head wasn't really into it,
You
and
wasn't into it.
engineering's a tough program. So I switched out of engineering after one semester, and they had a business school there, so I entered the business school,
Business school.
and that was a little bit easier for me to navigate, seeing that I wasn't in class all the time, because I was taking the bus into Manhattan from Pennsylvania to go on the auditions, and
Okay.
so business was the major that I was in for those next 3 years.
So how did you land? How did you land the role on Happy Days? Because now I'm a fan of Happy Days. I grew up on Happy Days,
Oh, great!
and I remember those first couple of episodes. You weren't on there. It was really Richie.
And Posse.
Excuse me, Richie and Posse.
Well, I was on it. I just wasn't on it as much. If you look at the very first, okay, here's the picture you're showing
Uh-huh.
is from the pilot episode of the very first episode, and this was the first picture the four of us took together. And I was in the pilot. There was a
Okay.
scene. Yeah, there's a scene where I'm showing off my hickey in Arnold's.
I remember that,
Yeah,
but I didn't know. I didn't know that was the first.
yeah,
Okay.
that was the first.
I
So I
I
was, yeah, I was in it, but I was more, was sort of a supporting guy, a peripheral character. I would, and then as the season progressed and they liked what I was doing, they started adding me in a little bit more. And I knew I was under contract that I was going to be in at least 10 of the 13 episodes that were being shot. So that's what happened. But you're right, I wasn't in it. I wasn't one of the main characters. Just like if you look at those early episodes of the Fonz,
No,
was
he
sort of
wasn't.
he was
He
a
wasn't.
peripheral. He was a peripheral guy too.
Correct. It was more it was more Richie. It was
And
more
Potsy.
Richie and Potsy,
Yeah,
right?
and the family, and
And the fact now what was funny, Richie had a brother,
right.
but as the show went on,
Yeah, he kind of disappeared.
I don't know what he went to college and
That was it.
I don't know what happened to his brother.
I I know a lot of people. A lot of people say, "What happened to Chuck?" Whatever
And
happened.
Chuck just
He went into the Twilight Zone.
right. And it's just and what's funny is with TV, which I know you know, it's just how they do that. Like they won't even write a person out of a just. It's like you'll just go in a room or something, walk out the door, just never come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, it was a fun, tricky situation. I remember after the first season, and we were starting up for the second season, one of the executive producers came up to me and he was explaining that the actor Gavin O'Hurley, who sadly passed away just a few months ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was really sad to hear that. They said that what happened was they had him as sort of the dumb jock, the guy who's always dribbling a basketball, and he didn't really have,
Right.
he didn't have a lot going on upstairs, and so that was what they were doing. And as they saw that the shows were going more towards Richie and Posse and his friends, and at Arnold's, and that so Fonzie and Ralph were starting to come up more, and they were finding less and less to do with Chuck.
Correct.
So then at the end, for the next year, I guess Gavin was frustrated, felt like, well, I don't want to just, play a guy who all he's doing is dribbling a basketball, says a couple of dumb lines, and that's it.
Right.
And so it was kind of a mutual thing where they said, you know what, okay, he's not happy, and they couldn't come to terms or whatever. So he wasn't going to be back, and they said he went off to college, and that was it. And then the funny thing is that there was an episode maybe in the next season where they had an episode where Richie wanted to move in with getting a
Yeah.
part with Chuck. So they hired a different actor to play Chuck.
So
So, that's what they did.
let me ask you this: How do you? Well, let me say this: Do you think people really understand the significance of a supporting cast? So, in other words, when you have Ron Howard playing Richie Cunningham, and you have the family, in order to expound his character has to do something. He's
Right.
got to have friends, and people don't understand that the supporting cast, like Potsy and Ralph, helps to excuse me, helps to expound Richie's character.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. You're 100% right on that. Um, yeah, I mean that's why it was such a great ensemble. The cast, and we all got along so well together, and respected each other professionally, and got along so well, and the chemistry was good. And you're right. I mean, you have to have sort of contrasting things going on, and different dynamics so that it all works. And I mean, there are some series, I guess, where the main characters are two guys, and then it's mainly those two guys, and then the guests each week. But in this case, the ensemble was so important, and I think that's what made it so popular. You had Richie with his family, and that was one sort of kind of thing going on, and then he
yep,
had Richie with his friends, which was a whole other thing, and it brought people into the living room to watch it as a family. People would watch the show with their kids and their grandparents, and because their grandparents grew up in the 50s, and
right.
and so they related to it, and then the parents and the kids related to it because it was like, oh, look at this other era, the 50s. Look how cool. It was a different feeling, and the style and the drive-in with the cars, and so they would get into it, but everyone could relate to it because there were the universal themes of friendship, and
Right.
and first love, romance, and dating and all that. So it covered all the bases,
And
and in a way that people really could relate to, and have fun with.
that was the great part about it. Like you said, giving a glimpse into the 50s, right? But
Right.
the great part was growing up in stages. Like you all's characters showed, okay, the big thing is to get to high school, right?
Right.
You get to high school, you're chasing the girls, but you
Right.
can't chase the girls without a car. So
Right.
simultaneously, that my generation coming up behind yours was looking forward to getting into high school, then the independence of learning how to drive. Because
Right.
even though we're not going to play the same, music, but excuse me, but that whole dynamic helped shape generations of having things to look forward to. The prom, all
Yeah.
those things. Now it seems like they're trying to take kids from zero to adulthood.
Right.
Like you're missing a
Right.
whole level.
Yeah. Yeah. The growth, the different levels of growth that you need to go through, and those experiences that you learn from, and find who you are. You're finding your identity during those formative years. Yeah, they're very important. Very important.
I know you've probably been asked this before, but I'll ask this question because I have my own. But what were some of the important episodes that you feel that Happy Days had covered?
Oh wow, that's a great question because people say to me, well, what was your favorite episodes? And of course, there are the ones where it highlighted the story revolved around something that Ralph was going through. Of course, I love those. I'm a little
Right,
biased.
right.
I'm a little biased. And there were some great episodes, but in terms of importance, there were some that we did that I think went beyond that because Gary Marshall was very keen, our creator and exec producer, on having some messages that would come through that were important in a lot of the stories without it being preachy, because we had all the great humor, but there would be ones that had a lot of heart, and would leave a message that might have some importance socially, without getting too preachy, like I said. So, I mean, for instance, you know, there was one early in the season, in the first season, where Fonzie was alone for Christmas, but he didn't want to admit to that. And Richie kind of discovered it and then invited him over. And it was a very heartfelt show. And the importance of friends, how friendship can be so important. And then, we had an episode in the second season where, it was a racial thing, where there was a Sticks, but even before that, there was one where there was a family that moved in, and it was a black family, and Howard stood up. Howard stood up and invited them and stood up, and so that was obviously an important episode, because in the 50s, there was a lot of segregation and all of that. So that was an important one. Then I remember there was one where Fonzie discovered a library, and he got into the fact that he could get a library card. Anybody could get a library card, And then we found out that enrollment, for people applying for library cards went up like a zillion after that episode, and they wanted to emphasize the importance of reading, and so there were episodes like that, and there were a bunch of others that I can't think of right now. I remember one when Richie was in the hospital, and
I remember that Fonzie was praying.
He was what? Yeah, praying.
Yeah, he was praying. He was praying over Richie.
Yeah, because Richie was in bad shape. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. My favorite. I mentioned Sticks because the racial. But here was the cool part that you guys did that I liked. So Fonzie thing was, look, I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna tell them kids, look, they come to this party, because he's the Fonz, right?
Right.
And Mr. C had to let him know that you can't work. Racial components don't work that way. Like, you can't force the even though it's not cool to be a racist, you can't just force them to accept this guy. And my other favorite, this was key. This was real big to me. Was, remember Fonz was dating a woman. I think she was having problems with her husband at the time, and the man's kid looked up to Fonz, and he wanted to be like Fonz, and Fonz had to fake like he was scared in a fight at Arnold's.
All right.
He had to fake it so the kid would go back to his dad
and look up to his dad.
Right. And your character was the one that said, "Oh, it was fake," because it threw you guys off. Like, what? Paul's scared. Hold on, what's going on?
Right.
And your character picked up on it. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That was a fake, and it showed that, like, the best thing for that kid, even though he's looking up to the Fonz, the father has made some mistakes with his family. The best thing for that kid is to renew his relationship with his father. And I thought that was so powerful.
Yes, you're right. I'm glad I forgot about that episode.
Oh, man, I told you I'm a fan, man.
Yeah. And now that you're talking about it, I remember that, that was very powerful. It was a very, and for the Fonz to do that, that was quite a decision that he made, and to put himself up like that as a weakness and scale, and he was willing to, because it was bigger than that. He knew how important it was,
and that was great writing. That was great writing.
You're right. It was. Absolutely. We had a lot of great writers.
What was
And
you
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
thought? What were you getting ready to say?
No, no, and we also had great writers, and we also had a great director named Jerry Paris, who used to be the director and played the next door neighbor on the old Dick Van Dyke Show. He played the next door neighbor, Jerry Helper, and he directed most of the Dick Van Dyke shows. And we were lucky that we had Jerry and
I
Gary.
grew up on that too.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really excellent show. Yeah.
Only difference between you and I is I dyed my beard the other day, so that was
Right.
yeah. I got rid of the gray. I got rid of.
Yeah, mine's definitely coming in a little white
Well,
there.
you look good in it. You look
Oh,
good.
thank
I
you.
don't look good in
Oh yeah, no, I think you do.
it. What was it like for you when you started getting other roles, playing in other parts, and started shedding Ralph, the character
Yeah,
Ralph? Because I
yeah,
know how you can be typecast. What was
yeah.
that like for you to be able to start to show your range of acting and to be able to shed the Ralph character?
Yeah, well, it was it's a difficult thing. It's actually one of the reasons I left the show after 7 seasons. The show wound up going for 4 more years after Ron
Wow.
Howard. Ron Howard and I left after the seventh season, and it was a tough decision. But I knew, I got into acting, and the thing that I loved about it was playing roles that were different than who I was,
Okay.
and playing all different kinds of roles. That was was the challenge and the thing that I loved about it. And I saw that I didn't want my career to just be this one character, and then I would never be able to shake it and do other things. And I wasn't even the truth is I wasn't really like Ralph in real life. I was when I was in high school, I was never the comedian. I was like more like Richie. I was an honor student. I was kind of shy. I would be a good audience for my friends who were the other guys who were the comedians. And
Okay.
but I wasn't the comedian, and I never wanted to be a comedian. But I was an actor who I felt I could do comedy. If I play the character and I'm truthful to the character, and if the situations are funny, if it's written well, I could do comedy. But now here I am being looked upon as this character Ralph, and it's not who I am, and I want to have a career beyond that. So it's one of the main reasons I decided when my contract was up,
Right.
not to 7 years was enough to play that character, and I moved on. And it was hard because I couldn't even get auditions, for film. I wanted to do films and more theater and playing all different kinds of roles. It was tricky. It was like hitting a brick wall a little bit
Wow.
because I couldn't even get into audition in many cases. But I kept plugging away, and I did some theater, and then I actually even told my agent initially I don't want to do television for a while. I want to just try to do film and theater. But I went 6, 9 months without even being able to get an interview for a film. So I decided, okay, you know, let me do some television, and maybe I could get some roles that will be different. And that's what I started pecking away at, and I started getting some interesting. So at the beginning, I did roles that were a little bit different, and then I was able to get roles that were a little bit more away
Different.
from Ralph. And I did a Star Trek where I played a villain and a doctor, and he was the real villain of the piece. And then I did something called The Crow where I played a psychiatrist, and it was very different. And I did an episode of Chips where I played like a metal hard metal rocker kind of guy, like Kiss,
Okay.
with all the makeup and all that
Okay.
stuff. And then I started getting some independent films where I got to play very different roles. I played an alcoholic retired baseball player alienated from his son, and on and on. And in the last but it was hard, and it's gotten for some reason, I guess, getting older, there's more separation now from Happy Days,
Yes.
I looked older, and all the time that has passed. So in the last 4 years, I've been playing so many different kinds of roles, defense attorney to a correction prison guard, and then a polygamist.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'll send if you give me an email. I'll send you a link to some of the stuff where I'm playing a
Okay.
polygamist prison guard, and then I play the owner of a big CEO and owner of a team, and then a king, and then going from that to a small town pastor. I mean, just running the gamut. So
Okay.
and I actually won an award for that at a big festival, a film festival last year. I won Best Supporting Actor in a Feature Film at the International Christian Film Festival for a movie called Lost Heart, where I played the pastor. It's on Amazon Prime; people can see it.
Okay.
And Man's Best Friend, where I played the defense attorney defending a wounded vet. It was a very heavy film, and that's on Amazon Prime too.
How how were you accepted on a show like Bold and the Beautiful? Where
Well, that was pretty easy to do. That came about. I can't remember. My agent, I think, was friends with the casting director, and I'd never done a soap. And he said, "Hey, would you, you know, I could get. They're interested in you to do. It's sort of a two-parter. Would you be interested in doing it?" And I said, yeah, why not? I've never done one, and it was a different kind of role. And it was during a period where I was getting a little antsy and wanting to work, and a
right.
little bit of a slow period. And I said,
Sure.
I'll try it, and it was different. It was a whole different experience. I'd never done that, and I'm glad I did because there are all those experiences are helpful in terms of growing and continuing the process. And to me, that's what it's about.
I can't even watch that show now. I used to watch it, but
Oh, yeah.
well, what it had to do with the passing of the lady that played Stephanie.
Oh,
Um,
I see.
such a
Yeah.
such a she was just such an iconic powerhouse for that show. And then when they changed Ridges, the person that played Ridge
Oh,
originally,
I
and
see.
so
It changed.
sometimes
Yeah, it just
it,
changed too much.
yeah, it changed too much.
Yeah.
So my next question is very interesting. So you sing,
Yeah.
and were you because I went on YouTube and I said, "Oh man, he can sing." So
Right.
were you were you guys actually singing on the show?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We weren't really playing the instruments that we were faking. Um,
Right.
but singing we always did. And what happened was Anson Williams, who played Potsy,
Yes.
he came from a musical theater background, so he was a singer. And he approached Gary Marshall early in the first season with the idea of forming a band. The guys could form a band and play at Arnold's. And he said, "I'm a singer," and Gary liked the idea, of bringing the music into it because that was a big part of the 50, that whole set, the
Right.
style of music. So, and Gary was a drummer when he was young, so he liked the idea, and he said, "Let's try it." And and then what happened was then he started it established Potsy as the singer, and he started doing more and more, and then and I was like, when I was 15 years old,
Okay.
before I got my manager and switched to a serious acting studio
Hmm.
class, I was pursuing the singing, and I became part of a nightclub review, and I was singing in nightclubs when I was 14, 15 years old in the Catskill Mountains, which was a resort area upstate New York, had all these hotels with nightclubs. Um, and I was spent the summers singing in nightclubs when I was 14, 15. So I'm like saying to Gary Marshall, "Hey, I'm a singer, I could sing too." But he didn't want, he had already established Potsy as the singer. I was more of the comic guy, the comedian. He didn't want to mess with that. So I didn't really, they let me sing every once in a while. I did sing on a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I was about to say you sung on a couple of episodes.
Yeah, a
So
couple of episodes.
what style is that considered that you sing? What genre is that considered?
It's considered like the Great American Songbook, they call it. the standards, and I
The
do it with
standards. Okay.
the jazz, and I do it with on the jazz side. So the jazz standards. You know, I like to do it with a jazz kind of band. Sometimes I do it with a big band, 18-piece big band. You know, swing and jazz and but the standards. That's what I love. But I also integrate blues, some really good blues in there. Jump blues, I love. Um, like some of the guys like Big Joe Turner. I do a song
Okay.
that Big Joe Turner did, and some of the other greats that did jump blues, because the jump blues is kind of a cousin to swing. So I love that style.
Man, that when I went on YouTube, I said, "Oh man, this guy is awesome. This guy is
Oh, thank you.
talented."
I
Yeah, man.
appreciate
I mean, I was listening, man. I said, man, they got the look, and it was so funny. I said, man, he should have been on Fame. He should have
it.
been.
Yeah, yeah, I could have done that. I could have been on Fame.
He
Yeah,
should have been on Fame. I said, man, wow.
yeah,
I mean, it was
yeah.
just interesting sometimes when you see someone like yourself as talented as you are, and sometimes just the show or the timing or whatever, you don't get to show all your skill sets.
Right,
And
right.
sometimes people are limit. Now, I never thought you was Ralph. I knew you was playing Ralph, and this is the only way I knew this because a lot of actors say some of the great acting comes from playing someone totally opposite of
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
But the only problem is the fans think that's
That's
you.
right. Yeah, yeah. They expect me to be like that. It's true.
It's like, no, he's playing a part, people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, playing a part. You know, there's always certain things that of myself that will come through that you can't deny.
Right.
You know, there's certain aspects that will come through, but for the most part, I was very different than Ralph.
Well, yeah, your mannerisms are your mannerisms,
Right.
not. But at the same time, uh, being the jokester and all that stuff, like you
Yeah.
said, that's you're playing the part. It's just
Yes.
that your mannerisms are
Right.
yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, do you feel Hollywood is still fickle in pursuing actors? You know, sometimes they either want a veteran actor or okay, we're looking for a fresh face, or
Right.
well, we want somebody been seen but maybe not seen too much. Is Hollywood still fickle like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the competition is so strong. There's so many people out there that they can choose from, and yeah, I there it's sort of it can be very unfair at times because um, you know you might not get a good the chance that you deserve for a certain kind of role because
Gotcha.
they have 100 other people to choose from, and they go, well, no, we know him as this, and you know, and it's easier for them to play it safe and just go with the safe way as opposed to taking a chance on somebody that it's a different, very different than what the the people's association is with
Sure.
that character, and but sometimes they will take chances on a newcomer because, like you said, they want a fresh face, and that's why how some people can break in. You know, otherwise it'd be tough to break in. Well, or you have to build your way up.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think it's because of just the nature of supply and demand. There's just so
Supply.
much supply out there, and it makes it very mercurial in that way.
I have two more questions for you. The next question, actually, I'm gonna save for last.
Okay.
Um, my last question, I'm going to switch because I want you to tell me um, about this person and
Oh,
who she was.
oh wow. Yeah, Aaron. Wow, Aaron Moran. Oh man, it's always it gets me very sad when I see a picture like this of Erin, because as we know, she passed way too young, so young, and it's very sad. She came down with a cancer actually, and that's what happened. A lot of people think that she fell into some tough times, and they think that maybe that led to her death, and I don't think it was really related. It was she smoked cigarettes, and I think she wound up having cancer in the throat, or I don't think it was lung. But I remember when I started doing the show, she was 13 years old, and
Yeah.
she was this adorable young and very talented actress, and she was just a joy to be around and a joy to work with. And then then when I left the show in
Right.
1980, I think it was in those years, those next 4 years, because now she was becoming, she was 20, 21,
Right.
and I think she might have started, delving into some drugs and alcohol, and that led to some problems. Um, but I wasn't around during that time, so I didn't witness
Sure.
that. So
Right.
but then I would see her later on, because then there'd be events that we would be at together, some personal appearances, autograph shows, and we would have great times, but I could see, that she was maybe drinking too much, um, and then the man she was married to, they wound up, financially having some rough time, and they wound up sold their house and moved to uh, Indiana, where his mom lived. And and then I saw her about 8, 9 months before I think she passed, and she was
Right.
doing really well, and I thought she was doing really well. She seemed to be doing better than I'd seen in a while. So I was very surprised and saddened when I heard she got sick. It was very
Is
sad.
it is it you hear so many people want to be in your line of work, right?
Right,
And for her, like you said, at such a young age, and she played that character for so long, right?
right,
Because she grew into it.
right,
And then the Joni and Chachi show, right? But
right.
she's still playing Joni.
Exactly.
And so when that goes away,
Hmm.
is that have you seen, not with just with her, but with other childhood stars trying to adjust to regular life from the illusion
Hmm.
of Hollywood?
Yeah, I think that's a very smart observation and assessment of it. I think I was lucky in that when I started doing the show, I was 20.
Right.
By 20, when I started doing it, I'd been through 3 years of high school, all those growth periods that we talked about
Right.
earlier,
Right.
and college, and it was normal. It was a normal world that I was growing up in, and that I found my identity. But you start at 13, and all of a sudden you're on a show that's the number one show in the world, and you're now going through those important growth periods in a surreal world. It's not real in many ways,
Right.
and and then, like you said, and then it goes away, and it's very. I think it's very, very difficult for someone to have that kind of fame, and be in it from that age, and be exposed to that world, and come out the other end, without it
It's
being.
very few.
It's very few who can come out stable and solid. It's very hard. So yeah, my big recommendation would be, wait till you're maybe 18 or older before. I mean,
I know, I agree with you
yeah,
because the illusion, I mean, I think about people that are grown who become millionaires because they hit the lottery
right,
and how they can't handle that.
right, yeah,
so so you a child a child star
right,
where now you can't go to school.
right,
I mean, nothing, you can't grow up normal.
exactly.
Then when it's over, everybody's like, okay, go be normal. You like, you don't even know what that is.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's a very, very difficult road to navigate, and I'm sure that's part of what led to her getting into alcohol and drugs, and it's a common thing you see, and it's and having a really, I was lucky also because I had a very strong family,
Sure.
not just my parents, but then my grandparents and uncles and all of that. And growing up in a normal way with that is very important. Then you might be better equipped to deal with what.
Yeah, I remember I interviewed Karen Ward Ross. Um, she was a child star on Fame,
Okay.
and then she started to, as an adult, come back to the industry. And she mentioned something that you mentioned, which was her family. Like when Fame was over, she had a normal life.
Hmm.
So when she came back to the industry, she knew how to handle it. She
Yeah.
knew how to maneuver through
Right.
it now.
Right.
But if you just grow up in it all the way to adulthood,
Yeah.
and then that show goes away because the
Yeah.
show has a shelf life, uh,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
don't know what to do. So I appreciate what you said. Yeah, I would. Yeah, wait till you're 18, 19, 20.
Yeah. I think so, but yeah, your assessment and observation is right on the money.
My final question for you is everything that you've done, what keeps you motivated to keep going, doing all that you do?
Uh, that's a good question because some people will say to me, don't you want to just kind of kick back now and and relax and I've been busier in the last, like I said, 2 3 years than I've been in a long time between the movies, some TV, and the music. I've been doing shows around all over and recording. Um, I don't know. I to me, I feel like a few years ago, I said to people, I feel the best is yet to come. And I feel there's so much more I want to do as an actor, so much more, and with the music too. That I don't know. It's something that I was so laser focused on when I was young,
Right.
and it was very. I was just driven towards it. It was in my blood. It was it's hard to explain, and I've never. There are times when I've been. There were some, like I said, some rough periods where I started wondering, should I hang it up? Because
Right.
it's just too difficult. But deep down, I knew I couldn't, and I persevered. And now that things have been opening up again in a way where, like I said, I'm doing more and interesting, various different kinds of roles and good projects, and juggling the music. I love it so much, and it's so fulfilling to me, and I am driven to do more great things. I just want to keep doing, but bigger, not bigger, but better. You know, like I said, I haven't done what I've been meant to do yet. There's still a lot more.
Oh man, keep keep going, man. You are a talented one.
Oh, thank you so much.
You someone I watched as I was growing up
Yeah,
on TV and saw how talented
I
that you
appreciate
were, and the memories. Like I said, that show allowed to learn how to grow up in stages.
that. Yeah,
And I think that's just
great.
what's missing today. Kids don't grow up in stages. You went from grade school waiting to get to high school because you want to go to the prom. But
Right,
then you wanted to get your driver's license so you could
right.
drive to the prom.
Yeah,
Then 18 came because you're looking at college, and then 21 because you want to be able to drink. So everything was in stages. But now,
yeah, and at the right time, where now they're exposed to things that they shouldn't be way too
yeah,
early, and they're forced to grow up quicker. Yeah,
yeah. And I think, I told someone, and this is just a sidebar before I let you go. Excuse me. I asked this question. Well, not this question, but someone said to me, like, all these shows that they're trying to reboot, that they're trying
right.
to bring back. And
Yeah,
I said, it won't work. And people say, why won't reboots work? I say, because people are not the same as they were when the show first came out.
Right.
That's the problem. People are not the same. The show worked then
Right.
because of who we were as a society then. When you try to bring that same show back, it doesn't work because people
Unless,
change.
yeah,
Okay.
unless you adapt it
Uh-huh.
to what's going on now and have those characters, before dealing with. Because I say that because somebody's approached um, uh, Anson and I
Uh-huh.
with an idea for a show, and so we're in
Odd
discussion.
couple.
It'd be kind of like, but kind of like an odd couple to some degree, but but
'Cause
you
I
know,
can see that. I can
yeah,
see that. When you said it, that's why that jumped in my head. I can
yeah,
see that.
yeah. But we would, but we'd be dealing with things that are very current, and so there'd be the old and the new, and I think it could work. We'll see. I don't
What
know what's going to
look,
happen,
hey, well,
but
look. I can tell you right now, if you guys say you did a like you said a somewhat like a odd couple,
right,
right? Um, excuse me. He's the liberal one, and and you're the more like, hey man, come
conservative,
on, you trying to have fun, like you got your grandson, or you dealing with your grandson and his grandson are
right,
friends,
right,
and you're looking at him like, man, come on, man, stop being such a wimp, man. Come on, man,
right,
let the kids.
right.
I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah, it could work. It might. So we'll see. We're just kind of in the early stages talking about
Gotcha,
it, and we'll see
gotcha.
what happens. But you're right. I mean, it's tricky to do it. I guess some reboots. I haven't been watching hardly any television, so I don't even know all
Well,
the
yeah, if
stuff.
you're watching television, that means you're not working. So, yeah,
Yeah,
you don't need to be watching TV right now.
yes, but I guess some of the reboots have been successful. So if they're smart about it, I guess it could work. But it is tough. It's tricky because, like you said, it worked at a particular time, not only because of what society was then, but of, like you said, who they were at that particular point, and they're not that now.
Hold on, you something jumped in my head. Let me throw this idea at you. If with your show, whatever you're working on,
Right.
if you would, if you was married, I got the perfect wife for you.
Oh yeah.
I know it'll work,
Oh yeah.
and that's
What you could
Penny
say,
Marshall.
Penny,
Yeah,
but Penny passed away.
Penny. When did that happen?
Oh gosh, a few years ago.
See,
Yeah.
I've had a lot of death in my family, so I've been kind of
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, Penny.
wow. Because I think let's see, Aaron died and passed in
I guess
I
I
think it
don't
was
remember.
2017.
It might have even, yeah, about that. Probably
Yeah, see my
16
mom. Yeah, see my mom passed
around the
and
same
that's
time.
yeah, my father-in-law. So I kind of that's why I didn't know Penny Marshall because I could see the way she played
Laverne.
Laverne, right? And
Yeah.
pair you up, I could see a dynamic, man.
That,
But I
that,
didn't know she.
yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah, another sad. Yeah, she and then Gary passed away too a few years
yeah, I
ago.
knew, I knew Gary Marshall
Yeah.
had passed. You guys, man, are legends of TV because you created things without, like you said, it's kind of hard to create a show where the whole family, even Laverne and Shirley, where the whole family can watch,
Yes.
and it's funny. See, I enjoy different types of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you were on, you guys were coming right behind. I'm talking about as far as the era, were coming right behind like the Andy Griffin show,
Right.
and that was funny to me because I loved Ernest T. Bass. Like it just
Right.
different type of humor. Funny is
Yeah.
funny to me. It just
Yeah.
depends on how you package it, how you.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, I appreciate you coming on the show,
Oh, sure.
blessing me with your presence. I love to bring you back at a later date. Keep doing what you're doing. But by all means, please be safe out there and stay blessed. And I will send you my email so you can send me that information.
Yes. Thanks for having. I really enjoyed talking with you. Thanks for having me, Otis.
All right. Keep smiling.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Okay.